Hello, everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is John D Healy. I wrote this book. It's called And That's How It All Started, about my friend Tony McGurn. It's his life story from 1941 up to a few years ago. It's on Amazon and it's also on audio. My sponsors are Liffey Movie Company. They're here in New York City. They have a big birthday coming up next year. They're as old as Jeopardy. When it comes to moving, let Liffey do the lifting. My podcast is called It's Good to Talk. And it surely is good to talk. I always have special guests on and interesting guests. Today is no exception. My guest today is Oliver O Connell, and I'll be chatting about him. He's a writer, an author, musician, very talented, and he too has produced something beautiful, a journey, not a destination. So, Oliver, welcome. Tell us where you were born and what part of the world you're in.
Thank you, John. Greetings from the heart to the burn in North County Clare here. Raining at the moment, but still looks beautiful. I was born midway between Liston, Varna and Doolin in 1948. I'm 74 years old at the moment. I was born, I suppose, at a time when Ireland was a different place from where it is at this moment in time. And I was blessed in my life, actually, John, with a tremendous memory, because I suppose the greatest cultural changes that have taken place in Irish history have taken place over the last 50, 60 years. And I have witnessed them all, because we have gone in Ireland from a time where you took turf out of the bog with a donkey and baskets to where we are right now on Zoom with you in New York, and I'm here in the heart of the burn. So it's a whole new different world, and I've experienced all those changes up along over the years. Last year I wrote my life story, and I called it I Remember It All. And I did a kind of an unusual thing in it. I recorded everything. I wrote the book first of all, and then I recorded it. And then, because I write a lot of poetry and prose and stuff about my childhood, what have you, I recorded it and I put music to the background. For example, and I did a piece there about the Innis Diamond Fair, which was a big event in North Clare when I was a child growing up in 1968. And I recalled all the characters and all the things that happened at fairs in Ireland, and I put the sounds of the fair in the background and the music and all that kind of stuff, So I've been doing that. I've had a very successful life to a point, and then in the economic collapse of the 2007, everything went kind of haywire with me. But a little bit before that, in 1999, my wife Maureen died of ovarian cancer. She was 48, 49 years of age, and that destroyed us in every sense of the word. She was just something extraordinary. And as far as I'm concerned, it's 23 years now, or it could be 23 minutes, John, as well. That's the way I see it. But I just kind of motored on with life as best I could. But I was like a man.
Were you always writing poetry from a young age?
I could write stuff when I was young, John. I could even play tunes when I was young, but I never kind of developed it. And it was only when the major sadness came into my life that a window opened my brain and suddenly stuff started to pour out that I literally had no control over it. I mean, I can walk down the Famine Road, like I did this morning, and I can come back and write the most magnificent piece of poetry you could imagine. I can do it, It's just something, and I don't know where it's coming from.
That's a gift.
I don't know. I think it's well, you see, you have to have experienced pain in this life to really live the life. Now, when Maureen died, and then I lost the business, I lost my money, I lost my home, I lost my job, I lost my pension. I was in about 8 car crashes over about 3 or 4 years as a result of the stress. And then I was struck down with cancer. I got 2 lots of cancer. I got stomach cancer and kidney cancer, and they were both like aggressive cancers. And I survived all those, and today I don't take any medication whatsoever. So I have a hugely positive attitude, John, and I won't let anything beat me whatsoever. Nothing.
That's interesting. I interviewed a scientist here a few months back from Sloan Catering, Sergey Yanaglich, and I asked him a question. I met a gentleman, maybe about your age, actually older, and he had overcome a lot of cancers as well. And I asked the older gentleman first, like, what was it? He said, science, doctors, and God. So I asked my scientist friend, I said, well, where does God come into it? And the scientist said, yes. He said, if you have hope, he says, you have a better chance of beating the cancer than a guy or a woman that throws in the towel. So I'm glad you overcame it, and congratulations on that. And you're up and running again. Tell us more about the writing, and you also had a book out called Free Spirits.
I wrote a book about I wrote a book called Free Spirits in 2011. Actually, I launched it the week I was out of hospital after my cancer in the Galway clinic. And a colleague of mine from South Armagh, Tommy Fagan, we wrote a book called Free Spirits, whereby we captured what some of there was 8 iconic traveller families in Ireland: the Duns, the Dorothy's, the Duns, the Furies, the Keenans, the Dorans, the Dorothy's, the Roonies, the Purses, and the Cashes. They were the main families.
All music, yeah.
All music. And sometimes the travelling communities have very bad press in Ireland, and for good reason. They cause themselves. But for those 8 families that were into the music, John, they never ever kind of got into any kind of trouble whatsoever. Finbar Fury is a regular visitor here to my house, and Mickey Dunn was with me 2 weeks ago in New York, and they're from the travelling background, but they're great musicians. So we wrote that book, Mickey Dunn as well, obviously, and we captured the what they had contributed to the development of Irish music in Ireland, because for centuries Irish music was banned, first of all, by the Crown forces when they came in, and then in later years, coming up like to the beginning of the early 20th century, a lot of the people in Ireland didn't want music in the house because they saw it as a distraction from trying to put bread on the table. And then when you came into the 1950s, 1960s, they saw fellas who played music as being, bums and fellas inside in pubs drinking. And so it didn't get the status it deserved until now. The travelling families kept it going. Little Neil Pipers, Johnny Doran would come to West Clare, drive up from County Wexford in a horse and caravan, and arrive in February. And he was the man they used to play for the dances when people went to America. The American wakes and all that, And for the first time, Willie Clancy ever saw the Yellow Pipes. Just Johnny Doran was playing them in Milton, Malborough. And
the Furies are a very talented band.
Oh, they're very talented.
I've seen them live several times, actually, and especially Finbar. Finbar gave advice to a friend of mine one time who was also a singer, and he said, when you're singing a song, he says, you got to put full emotion into it, as if it's the first time you sang it, you sing it that way each and every time. Speaking of the Uilleann Pipes, your son is Michael Blackie O'Donnell.
O'Connell.
Connell. I got the name wrong. O'Connell. And he is a worldwide renowned Uilleann player, all over from Japan to America, all over the world. So he obviously got his talent from you, I guess, yeah?
I won't say he got the talent from me, but he certainly got the inspiration from me. I remember when he didn't start playing Uilleann Pipes until about 15, which is old for a musician, for a young musician. Now you have kids here in Clare at the moment of 8 years of age, and they're honest to God, they blow you off the water.
Right.
But I had sent him, I was wanting him to take up an instrument, and I kept on him about the concertina and the accordion, the fiddle and the flute. No. And then one day I said, will you take up Uilleann Pipes? And his answer was more dominant. He said, no way. I bought him anyway. I got Mickey Dunn, my friend, to get him a set. And then I took him to see Paddy Keenan playing one night. And it was one of those nights Paddy was on fire. I hadn't seen Paddy in 20 years. And when Nicholas saw him playing, that was it. There was no going back. So And then I introduced him to a lot of the travelling pipers. Mickey Dunn taught him. He didn't taught him how to play it. But I introduced him to Finbar Fury and Paddy Keenan and Mickey Doran in England and Johnny Rooney. And he has that kind of wild, free-flowing piping. The travelling pipers played different to the settled pipers. They were wild because they had to make a living, and they had to hold your attention on the side. So they played with passion and power and energy.
Right. Excellent. Yeah, I had another lady on here a number of months back, good friend of mine from County Mayo, Mildred Byrne, and she teaches young kids how to play the tin whistle and the accordion and all that. And she actually made an entry into the Guinness Book of Records, a bar I own in Roscommon called the Sheepwalk. She had the biggest, smallest Cayley band in the world, and Donegal Dooling was there to adjudicate. So I shout out for Mildred there. You can check my podcast, because the name of the podcast is called It's Good to Talk. My guest is Oliver O Connell today, and we're talking about all his books he's written, stories he's told, poetry he's written. And we're getting now to your latest one, which is Always a Journey, Never a Destination. Tell us about the production of this one, Oliver.
I certainly will. I had in my head that I was going to do something that people could see. I was writing a lot of poetry, and I was writing a lot. I have a lot. I've over about, I suppose, I've probably 400-500 pieces of poetry written that the public haven't seen at all yet. But I always wanted to, because I live in such a magnificent place, John, here in Clare and the Burn, and I have the lakes, and I have Mullaghmore Mountain. I'm looking out at them there now, like, and then I have the characters and the music, what have you. So the plan I had in my head was that I would marry my own poetry and prose to the landscape and to the music. And I was very fortunate. I came across a German girl called Sarah Thompson, and she was here on holidays with her husband, and I taught her how to play the concertina. I know she's a really good concertina player. She's playing in a band in Germany, and she saw my material. Now, a lot of John, a lot of your own people, your own place might have no value of what you're doing at all. But sometimes the outside person sees something in it that that the other people don't see it. And she said, "You need to do something with this material, Oliver." So I said, "I might do a DVD or a movie sometimes." But she said, "If you're going to do that, I'll introduce you to somebody." So she introduced me to this fellow called Stefan Decker in Bonn, in Germany. And I saw a little clip of video he did for. He's a great musician as well, of the band he was doing. And I saw what he captured on it, and I said, "That's the guy I want." So the two of them came with me, and we started. And now, honest to God, John, this was hard work. I mean, we did 16 hours a day. We were shooting 10 hours of film to get 1 minute. That's what they. And the Germans, like, they're very meticulous and very careful. And I went away from the Dolmen and Bunratty Castle and Dromore, and I concentrated on the land, because there's a spirituality in the land. Here where I live, even in the land all over Ireland.
Yeah, I've been to the Burn. Yes, beautiful. Yes.
It's absolutely beautiful. So I got them here, and then I got the musicians together. The last remaining old musicians in North Clare, Johnny Connon, Michael Kelleher, Joe Wren, Bobby Garner, and Christy Barry, and myself, and Des Mulcair, and then Mick Foster, the great Mick Foster. I knew Mick, Mick and Moira, his wife, came down to join us the day we filmed it, and sure he added an immense amount to it. So I shot that movie, Always a Journey, Never a Destination. And I called it that name for a specific reason, John, because life is a journey. It's not a destination. It's a journey. Getting to be a good musician, you'll be on the journey of music making for the rest of your life. You can learn something at 95 years of age. So
that's why it's good to talk. That's why it's good to talk.
That's why it's good to talk, yeah. And I called it that. Now it has got rave reviews, because I know, John, I did it well. I really did it well.
Oh, absolutely, I listened to it. I listened to it, and my sister Rose introduced it to me. Actually, she gave it to me as a gift. Thank you, Rose. And my birthday is coming up in December. I got an early gift of your DVD, and it's always a journey, never a destination. Now, Rose listened to it, and she loved it, and she is promoting it well for you here in New York, thanks to Rose. But indeed, I love the way you got the poetry, the music, and the scenery all kind of wrapped up in one.
That was the goal when I started.
Well, you certainly achieved the goal, yeah. And the design of the cover and the packaging is beautiful as well, because my background is marketing, and I note these things. My guest, Oliver O Connell. Podcast is good to talk. If you like it, hit like. If you like to subscribe. And there's always more characters coming up. I will be having Charlie McGettigan on. He won the Eurovision Song Contest. And when you mentioned about your wife passing away, Shay Healy wrote a song for Eurovision called What's Another Year? And that was about his mother dying and his dad coming to terms with the loss of his wife. So where can people buy your books and the DVD?
I have it. If they go into Custys music store on the internet, and they can order it from there, that's here in minutes. I kept the business local, whatever you want. But just going back a small bit, Don, if you don't mind, to talk about your sister Rose. I was in New York 2 weeks ago, and I'm not joking, she invited us out to her house, and she was at my concert in the Bronx, and they gave us the most incredible welcome. It made the trip to New York for me, and she bought quite a lot of my DVDs, and I just want to thank her on this podcast now, an amazing woman. Now, I knew Danny Maloney as well. He was a Clareman, obviously, not just a Clareman, he was a good Clareman. He was a great Clareman. And I met him in 1999, would you believe, up in Mayo Pack. I was out there with a group of musicians, and my wife was alive that time, and I had witnessed with him, I just want to thank Rose and Danny for while I have this opportunity.
Good memories, and she'll appreciate that too. So people can get it. What's the name of the store again, in Ennis?
Custys, Custys. Custys, well-known music shop. They have it at the moment, and they have the American version and they have the Irish version.
Correct.
And look, and any promotion I get, I'll be delighted with it because it was a tough spiritual, financial, emotional journey for me. It was a roller coaster, because anytime you put what's inside yourself out there, but there's a healing journey in that, John.
I was about to ask you that, say when I produced this book behind me for Stoney, I found it therapeutic for him actually, because he had to write it with a pencil, and then my job was to transcribe it, format it, and bring it to what it is, a proper book that people can read and learn from. And like yourself, there's a lot of good history in it as well, going back to 1941. And his life, for sure, was a journey, and it's not a destination, because he's still on that journey. So I always see the therapeutic part of somebody getting what's in their head onto paper and getting it out. You do feel good. I'm delighted to have you today, Oliver. Anything else you want to add before we?
Yeah, I just want to add one thing before I finish up, and it's kind of an important story. When I was ill and I had the stomach operation in Cork, and 3 months later I got the Galway clinic. I won't delay with this, but this is important. And it was the Christmas week. I was going to get my kidney out. I was getting my kidney taken out on the following morning, and the surgeon came into the room at 8 o'clock that night, 15th of December 2011. I will never forget it. And I remember I was being very brave, and I said, "Well, Paddy, we all set for the morning for this operation." And he said, "Oliver," he said, "we have a problem." And he said, "I had to cancel your operation in the morning." And for a split second, John, I thought that there was something wrong with the machine in the operating theatre or something like that. And I said, "What is it, Paddy?" He said, "Something has shown up in your bowel, Oliver," he said. And he said, "I'll be honest with you," he said, "this could be very serious. Would you like me to contact your family?" Christmas week, I'm on my own in the Galway clinic. And there was carols playing over the radio, and there was cars hanging up and Christmas trees and lights flashing. But that was a lonely couple of seconds. That's all I'd say, is a couple of seconds from you. So I said, "What showed up, Paddy?" I said, "Is it cancer?" He said, "We won't know," he said, "in the morning, put the camera down." So he said, "Will you give me the number of your doctor?" So I gave him the number of my doctor, and I listened to him talking. And he said to my doctor, "We found something in Oliver's bowel, and this could be very serious." I listened to this. And I said, "No, I'll contact my family myself." I rang my daughter in London. I rang my 2 sons and my sister. I said, "Look, I cancelled the operation. There's something there." I said, "But I don't think there's anything there. I think I'll be grand." I said, "And actually," I said, "I'm better pleased I get it done some other time." Now, I actually didn't allow 1 second of fear to come into my brain. And I went back to my room, and I'm always writing. I always have foolscap pages with me. And I wrote down a letter to God. And I said, "Dear God, if this is it, I'm ready. I'm 64. I've had a good life. Thank you for the wife you gave me and music and the friends and what have you. But," I said, "I have a couple of things to do before I go." I said, I do the Alzheimer's walk in the Burren every year. It's on in 3 weeks' time. It's 10 kilometres. I want to do that. I said, I want to go to America, to St. Louis, to play music in April. I have a wedding to go to in West Clare in March. And I promised my wife before she died that I would do Lockdown, and I never did it. I thought if I threw in that one, I had a good chance of survival.
Yeah.
I said, those are the 4 things I need to do. And then I signed the letter. I had it upstairs, John, and this might be very important now for your listeners. And then I got my foolscap, my pad, and I wrote on it, "I have no cancer in my body." And I wrote that line 4,786 times over 8 hours during the night. I stayed awake all night writing it. I will be in the morning at 5:30 to look at my bowel. There was nothing there.
Very unique story.
Came out, came to Galway. 3 weeks after that, a week after that, I had the operation. 3 weeks after that, I walked 10 kilometres in the Burren. I danced about 5 figures of a Clare set. I played music. I went back to West Clare to the wedding I was going to. I left it the following day, and I went to Cork, and I got 5 biopsies taken out of my stomach without an anaesthetic, and I went back to the wedding party. I then went to America in April, and I went to St. Louis, Chicago, Milwaukee, and flew into Newark, New Jersey. I then did Lochderg, and on my 64th birthday, I climbed Croagh with my bare feet. 74 today, I do not take one tablet of any description.
Congratulations. I must commend you. You're a very unique individual, said the least. And I'm sure my listeners will have enjoyed listening to you. Oliver O Connell is my guest, and my podcast is Good to Talk. And the book, the DVD, is Always a Journey, Never a Destination.
And if they want to get my audiobook, it's called I Remember It All, in the same place in Custys in Ennis. It's 4 hours long. It's an absolute, it's an amazing look of Irish life over the last 60 years.
Okay, so the audiobook is called I Remember It All.
I Remember It All.
I like the title. It's a good title. I'm not too far removed from this title. But I Remember It All is excellent. And they can buy it in Custys in Ennis as well.
Custys in Ennis as well, yeah.
As well. And that's it. Well, it was a real pleasure and a charm to have you on as my guest today. And I'll say goodbye to you now.
Thank you, John.
Well.
My pleasure. I wish all your listeners a very, very happy Christmas, and tell them to open their hearts and open their minds and open their souls to what's happening out there. Forget about all the negativity. Bring in the positivity, and we'll overcome any obstacle.